All right. Well, welcome everyone to our second session of Cooking Matters. This is Cooking Matters Family Meals, and you're going to be led tonight by the wonderful health educators from Clemson SNAP Ed, Myra and Diana. So stay tuned for them. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your evening to join us on this event. Of course, if you're interested in our other virtual events, please do check out greenvillelibrary.org/adult virtual events. And you can see more Cooking Matters events coming up. So you'll definitely want to register for those, sign up for those. And you can also see other related items too. Please don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also sign up for our e-newsletter so that you never miss out on fun and exciting events like this one. And check your sound, make sure you can hear me talking. And if you have any issues, you can ask a question in the chat box. I'll be moderating that this evening so I can help you troubleshoot. And then of course, if you have any questions for the group, you can put those in the chat box as well. All right, so please help me welcome Myra and Diana.
Hi.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to have you guys here and excited to hopefully give you some useful information and show you guys a cool recipe. So give me one more second. Awesome. Again, my name is Myra. Welcome. And we are talking about family meals today, and in hopes to give you tools to have no more mealtime madness. That's what we like to say. We know that meal times are often hectic, and we want that to be as less stressful for you as possible. So we're going to be talking about maintaining a basic pantry, weekly menus, and then involving the kids in menu planning to create buy-in so that they want to be eating whatever we're all eating, right? So, and then actually, sorry, we'll go back one. Diana, do you want to give the...
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure who was here and who wasn't here last class, but we just kind of went over with our last class talking about how to get around producing a lot of waste when it comes to the money that we spend on food, but also how to prevent that waste. So we talked about proper storage of foods, and in that we also talked about how to prep food before you freeze it. So if you guys want to check that out, that is on the YouTube page that you guys can check out. But we also talk about My Plate. We'll kind of go over My Plate every class that we have, just for anybody who might not know what My Plate is. But My Plate is essentially the super updated version of the food pyramid that I'm sure almost everybody is familiar with. But it has 5 different categories on there. So you're going to have your fruits, you're going to have your veggies, you'll have grains, you'll have dairy, and then you'll have protein. And so that plate just kind of gives you an outline of like how much of what category that you should have on your plate. We don't ever like to make people have in their heads that their plate has to be like this section, and this section. So making a chicken pot pie is essentially getting all of your food categories that you would need for the day. So it doesn't have to be a plate that looks super aesthetically pleasing and nice, but yes. So, oh, do you want to do this one, Myra?
Sure.
I just thought you unmute yourself, sorry.
No, yeah, you do. So as we start, we as we were talking about is we want to talk about how to maintain a basic pantry. So what we're meaning by basic pantry is having things on hand to where you could create a meal at any given time without necessarily having to go to the store if you needed to, or having to go to the store, saving yourself trips. So what are some foods that you guys normally keep on hand, like at all times? I know there are certain staple items for myself that I always have. So I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to unmute yourself, you can, or if you want to type it in the box. Somebody said dried rice and beans. Those are two big staples of mine as well. Two things that are not going to go bad in our refrigerator, two things that we don't have to worry about using by a certain date. Yes, so some noodles and sauces also, if those are unopened with the sauce, then that's something that you can keep in your pantry. That's a great staple. Love that. Having any kind of pasta is a great option. We'll talk another one of our classes about creating recipes with different without a recipe necessarily. And so having noodles on hand is a great tool for us to be able to kind of create something from nothing with just noodles. Fruit cups. Yes, I love that. One big one for me, I don't know about you guys, I'm a big peanut butter person. And so maybe not necessarily for dinner, but if I'm trying to create something for breakfast or lunch and I am not in a mood to do my protein through meat, I'll use peanut butter for my protein, a big peanut butter and almond butter.
I also keep coconut milk in my pantry.
Oh man.
And curry paste.
Yes. A curry is a wonderful way to utilize your fresh produce, a lot of the things that we were talking about last week. So making sure things don't go bad in our refrigerator. You can make a curry with, I don't want to say anything, but you can make a curry with a lot of things. And having coconut milk and rice, actually you could use noodles. So really you need coconut milk and that's about it. Some Thai paste, curry powder. Not too much. Awesome. So a few staples that I just wanted to mention maybe that we didn't think of are spices. So, one second. So different types of spices. So having obviously the basics of salt and pepper, but having cumin and Italian seasoning and dried herbs are a big portion of having a basic pantry, because if we get in a bind and all we have is maybe some noodles and then we have a can of tomato sauce that doesn't have any type of seasoning in it, we can make some makeshift spaghetti with all the seasonings that we have. We don't necessarily need a canned thing of already seasoned tomato sauce to use. So seasonings are a really big portion of a basic pantry. And then also, as some people mentioned, having rice, having beans, having canned goods is a really, really great option for us to utilize. We're going to be sending sometime this week, we'll send a follow-up with a few handouts in it. And one of those things is going to be some items to keep on your list and radar for having a basic pantry. At any point, if y'all have any questions or statements or anything, y'all feel free to unmute yourself or you can chat in the chat box. I'll let Day go.
So does anybody want to talk about how do you plan your, or not necessarily how do you, but do you plan meals in advance? I definitely love that answer, Wendy.
I plan a meal in advance if it's like a specialty item. If it's something sort of elaborate, then I'll plan it out for grocery shopping.
Amy said that they look at their grocery sale paper and plan for the week. And then
Awesome.
Alexandria also said most of the time. So the great thing about meal prepping or planning meals in advance is just kind of, one, when you go to the store, I know if I go to the store when I'm hungry, I just will go down every aisle and be like, let's get 2 of everything, which is not like financially responsible of me, but also like in the grand scheme of thing, like 2 of everything in my head is just like packs of Oreos. And like, I can't live my life off Oreos. I would love to, but can't quite do that. But we'll talk a little bit more about why planning meals in advance is like such a helpful thing, but also we'll talk about just some helpful hints and tricks and tips that'll help you do that a little bit easier and a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah, Well, I guess we can ask before we move on, why do you guys think that it's important to plan your meals ahead of time? Or not necessarily why do you think it's important even if you don't do it? And then if you, either way, why? My words aren't coming out right.
I know I eat a more balanced diet if I plan it in advance, and I'm less likely to go for prepackaged foods and junk.
Right.
Maximizing resources and being healthier, that's a big one. To keep from eating out so much, that is a big one. Not scrambling at dinner time on what to eat, that is another big one. Especially if, and we talk about this a lot with people about how like, not only are they scrambling at dinner time, but you're usually feeding different people with different tastes. And that gets like, if you're the person cooking the food, it can be a little hectic and a little tiring. And by the time you're finished cooking, you probably don't want to eat anything because you're so tired. So meal planning can be a huge help in that way too.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure who of you guys, if any of you have kids, or if any of those kids have different involved, or either you or a spouse or anybody that has different types of extracurricular activities that you might do after work. Whenever it's getting, 6, 7, sometimes 8 o'clock at night, and you're just getting home from different extracurricular activities, that's going to make it a lot more difficult for you to want to be thinking of something to prepare, right? I don't know about you guys, but if I'm on my way home from somewhere at 6:37, it is way more likely, if I don't have a plan, I'm going to pick something up. I'm going to eat out, and that's ultimately going to be less healthy. I'm not going to say unhealthy, but less healthy, and then it's going to be more expensive for me for sure in the long run. So definitely maximizing resources, like Wendy said. And it also, if you go shopping at the times that you're hungry and you don't plan your meals in advance, you're going to end up buying foods that don't necessarily help you in your basic pantry and help you in your meals for that week. Is that Dayana? She's pointing to herself.
Yes.
Right. So if we go to the grocery store, I know these seem like really simple tips, but if we go to the grocery store without a list, or somebody said that they look at the sales ads, that's what I do every time. It is to be able to plan your route through the grocery store like that is very helpful. If not, you're going to usually find yourself, I won't say for you, I'll usually find myself in the frozen food section trying to get something that's pre-prepared because I didn't think out my meals. So definitely a good idea to try to plan meals in advance. One other thing that I want to say before we move on from this one is that we may touch on it in another slide. I can't remember if I put it in there, but you don't necessarily have to know a recipe for every night. It's just a good idea to have an idea of a meal in your head. So for example, if I say I want to make a pasta dish tonight, I generally know that I'm going to need some type of noodles. If I don't have that, I'm going to need a type of sauce to either make or have. I'm going to need a protein to put in that of some sort. And then for myself, I'm going to want to put vegetables in that. So those are the things that I know I need for a pasta dish. It doesn't really matter. I don't need to know that I'm going to make spaghetti. I don't need to know that I'm going to make Alfredo. If that makes sense to you, if you can just have an idea of a meal in your head, that can be enough. So some people think that is really time consuming, that you need to go through all your recipe books to find out what exactly you want to make each night. It doesn't have to be that advanced. Just having an idea in your head is good. So, oh, I did have it.
No, this is basically what Myra was just talking about. Super simple, pretty easy to follow. So make sure that we kind of check and get a feel of what we have before we go to the store, because nothing's worse than buying something, then you get home and you realize you already had it. And then you want to start with a meal idea, not a specific recipe. So building off of what Myra said, kind of pick a pasta in your head. I know when I pick pasta, like if I'm like, oh, I want to make pasta tonight, when I'm going through the grocery store, I'll think to my head, like if I know I want veggies, like I need to pick up at least 2 kinds of veggies to put in there. I don't try and buy like the entire produce section, but I do try and get like a couple of things that I know I want in there. And then pick out some ingredients that can be used in more than one meal. So of course, super self-explanatory. If you get like a zucchini for your pasta, you can use that zucchini for a stir fry the next day. And then plan to use your leftovers in another meal, which for me, that's really tricky. But essentially like, it's so tricky that I can never think of a great example for it. But if you have some leftover ingredients, say if you make like tacos for one night, you can use that taco meat for like the taco meat that you don't put all into the taco. You can use that for some spaghetti meat. If you don't use it for spaghetti meat, you can use it for some kind of like baked dish that you can put in the oven. So, and like, who was it that said this? Amy. The way Amy said, so you can always check those store flyers, which is super helpful because there's no point in buying something one day if it's going to be on sale the next day. So maximize your funds in that way. And then of course making a shopping list. And these are like all things that you're going to do before you get into the store. So you've pretty much got like a game plan and you're good to go.
Awesome. Y'all let us know if you have any questions about that. I know it seems like simple things that we're pointing out, but a lot of the times we are so busy that we're not thinking of these things. So it's nice to be reminded sometimes. So we're gonna do a little activity if you guys are feeling activity like. We're gonna talk about just some meal planning basics. So there's 2 columns here. One is things that I already have on hand that need to be used. And then there's another column that says, oh no, there's a column that says ingredients I can use in more than one meal. So I'd love if you guys got a piece of paper, or you can use your phone. You guys have a phone, put it on notes section. I'm gonna give you guys just a second to get a pen and some paper or a note or your notes ready on your phone. And what we're gonna do once you have that is I want us to think of, we're only gonna really utilize this one column. The first one is ingredients that I have on hand that need to be used. Last week, we talked about how to kind of stretch our dollar by not letting food that already exists at our house go to waste. So a few slides ago, we were talking about kitchen staples or pantry staples that may not go bad, like non-perishable things, which is wonderful. But a lot of us use fresh produce and use things that will go bad. And a lot of people have a notion that fresh food is more expensive. Sometimes it is a little bit more expensive, but the most expensive food is food that we waste and throw away. So it's not necessarily that the bell pepper was that much money, it's that you threw away the bell pepper and now it is wasted money, right? If that makes sense. So what I want us to do is a small activity. You don't actually have to get up and check unless you'd like to. That's fine with me too. I'd like you to make a list of ingredients that you have in your refrigerator, on your counter, things that are perishable, that are going to go bad within the next 5 days. Or you think, I guess you don't really know, but if you have things that are on their way out, I want you to go ahead and make a list of those things. And I'm going to give you guys 60 seconds. And then we'll talk about them. One thing that we didn't mention is that pantry staples, I just mentioned them as being non-perishable, and most of the time that can be true, but I also have some staples, pantry staples, I suppose, that I keep in my refrigerator at all times too. I mean, there's, I always have almond milk. I'm not going to let myself usually run out of that. I am going to always have yogurt, things of that nature. I almost always have jalapenos just because I cook with a lot of jalapenos, but I just didn't want you to think that they necessarily have to be non-perishable. Having the basics that you know you use is always good to have. Okay, so what I'd like us to do, if you're still writing, that's okay. Or if you're still kind of thinking of things, that's okay too. But what we're going to try to do is think of some ways that we can utilize that. We did an activity similar last week. So if you were here with us last week, this is kind of like that. Here's the difference. You're just using your own list. So just the things that you have, you can add a few ingredients that you don't have yet, because that's the whole point, is that we're going to look at what we have first and then think of the things that we don't have to make a meal. Then when we go shopping, we know the few things that we need, right? So we're going to take a second to look at our list, see if we can make some meals out of those items so that we don't go to waste. So y'all can plan for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then in the next minute or so, I'd love if one or two people told us what's on their list. Either you can put it in a chat box or you can come off mute and tell us some of those things, and maybe we can help brainstorm with you.
I can start.
Yeah.
I have an onion,
Okay.
some Gouda cheese, some baby spinach, and some oranges.
I'm always thinking about like a fruit salad.
Mm-hmm.
Fruit salads are always good. I've never had Gouda cheese on a fruit salad, but I mean, you never know until you try it. So.
Onions and baby spinach are like, onions, baby spinach, and mushrooms are pretty much pantry staples at our house. They are in probably 3 out of the 7 days of food. We use all 3 of those in one thing. So whether that's on rice or on pasta or in a soup or in a casserole, we use those things all the time. So if you got maybe some mushrooms as well, you could and you can use your Gouda cheese. You could make a type of pasta with that, and you can, with whatever type of noodles you prefer. Yeah. You don't have to use mushrooms. I just love mushrooms. That's like the trio to me, like onions, baby spinach, and mushrooms. For some reason, that's like, I don't know. It's everything to me. But yeah.
So we also got bananas, bell peppers, tomatoes, and onions.
Awesome.
I was going to say, I'm thinking, I wouldn't put the bananas in this, but I'm thinking a stir fry would be really nice. That's kind of my go-to when I have a bunch of vegetables I need to get rid of. I'm like, stir fry and put it over rice. So
bell peppers and the tomatoes and onions, you could do stuffed bell peppers. So doing some rice with the onion and tomato, you'll do rice, tomato, onion. You could do some type of ground turkey if you want to. You don't even really have to. You could just put some more veggies. If you could borrow some of Rachel's baby spinach, that would be really good in there as well. And if you have a type of sauce, like a tomato sauce, and then maybe top it with some cheese too for the stuffed bell peppers. Also, bell peppers, that's one thing that, it's one thing that we sometimes start to let go bad, but you can cut them up and eat them with hummus, or you can eat them with ranch. It makes for a great snack. People don't often think of it because it's something that usually would go in a dish, or most people are used to using it in a dish, but it's something that's a great snack you can eat raw. We use it in a smoothie or freeze it. Sorry.
We got pears, plantains, cheese, bread, almond milk, and coffee creamer.
Your coffee creamer is going to go bad? Let me have it. I'll use all of it. The bread, I don't know if you guys had any. So for bread, you can make French toast, something like that. You can use your almond milk in the French toast. So that's two things that I was thinking of with that. I know this is,
you can use your
you can actually make a, with the pears, you can, I don't know if it's not really a saute, but you can heat them and then you can have them over the French toast as well. So like you could do those, like cook them.
Yeah.
Caramelize. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Day?
Or like
Yeah.
a peach cobbler. You could do like a peach
ooh.
cobbler and use pears.
Yes.
Yeah, with like cake mix.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make.
I'm not too sure. I don't know if you can freeze that, so I don't want to say, but you can freeze bread. So if you couldn't figure out a use for your bread that's going to go bad, freeze it before it gets bad, and then you can unfreeze it later when you have a use for it. Cheese as well. You can actually freeze cheese if you think it's going to go bad. Go ahead and freeze it. Well, depending on what type it is. I've never, not sure if you could freeze like Gouda cheese or I've never tried anything like that, but.
You can freeze anything you put your mind to.
Yeah. So the purpose of that activity, and hopefully this was helpful to you guys, was to start thinking about the things that you already have and making your menu planning based off of the things you already have. So it kind of gives you a starting point of what direction you need to go in, and B, something that we talked about last week was just not wasting that money, because food is money. So we don't want to be having to throw those things away. So if you guys start each week or whenever you're going to make your grocery trip, usually we do like a weekend one. So if we're going to make our grocery trip, we look in the refrigerator first. We kind of jot those things down that of the things that are going to go bad, so that we have an idea and make sure we're not, like Dayana said, double buying things, especially something that's about to go bad too.
So, talking about kind of in the same realm, but what are ways to involve the whole family in menu planning? And that doesn't necessarily have to be, it doesn't have to be the actual cooking of the meals too. So if you have like smaller kids who like you haven't quite got them into the kitchen yet, there's jobs that you can figure out for them also.
And I guess if you don't have any kids, your whole family could be whoever you live with. It could be your spouse or whoever you're living with. Go ahead, Leanna.
I was gonna say, because we kind of do it with the girls here. We ask them what do they want to eat, so they look forward and they may be interested in seeing you do things in the kitchen. So that would like open up the door to allowing them come in to see, this is how mommy does this. This is how mommy prepares this. And it might spark an interest. So I would say asking them, because more than likely a child is more willing to try what you made if they're interested in it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And that's one of the things we like to talk about too, getting kids used to being in the kitchen, so they don't necessarily have to have a job in the kitchen, especially if they're smaller children. You can give them a wooden spoon and a pot to play with, and that just familiarizes them with like, these are things in the kitchen. It doesn't have to be like, chop these pecans with a butter knife or something. It can be something as simple as just being in the kitchen, or like sitting in a high chair and just like being in the space. So
yeah. And on that note, when you ever ask, or if you have younger kids, or if you have some indecisive eaters or picky eaters, either one, you can always give them choices between 2 or 3 things. So sometimes we have people that often say, well, my kids don't eat vegetables. They don't eat them. They won't eat them. There's no way. So allowing them to maybe pick, but saying we can have either green beans, we can have carrots, or we can have roasted sweet potatoes, whatever, which one would you like to have? And even though they may not like any of those 3 options, they're going to maybe pick their least, their most preferred out of all of those. So just giving them some options, like Lena said.
And we also got someone, this is probably my favorite one. They make their spouse their sous chef, which means they can do complicated recipes in a short amount of time. And so, like, literally giving someone, here's the things to prep, here's the things to chop. It's always a great job to have. That's my favorite.
And they feel invested. Yeah. Yeah. And having your spouse or your kids or your roommate or whoever helping you with that meal, even if it's not something that they necessarily prefer to eat, they're going to feel more invested in it. So if they're helping you do that, they're going to be more invested in it. One more thing I was going to just mention, if you have younger kids, if this was something that could get them excited about eating something they didn't want to eat, is like creating theme nights. So I don't know any kids that don't like tacos, but Taco Tuesday, or, you know, we could do Wacky Wednesday, and then you have that could be your leftover night, and then you bring out all the leftover vegetables, your Wacky Wednesday. You could do Pizza Friday, Under the Sea Saturday, where you're doing different, like a seafood or a shrimp or something like that. And you could maybe have them color a picture of something that goes with the theme, and that could get them more excited for the meal. And then also it just creates buy-in, which is what you ultimately need whenever you're trying to introduce people to these new concepts of foods that you want them to try. Cool. All right, Jay, I'll let you do the recap.
Yeah, so these are just some tips for planning to make your way to a peaceful meal. So we want to make sure we plan those weekly menus in advance. So that's going to cut down on how much money we're spending, how much money we're wasting, and then also it's going to reduce mealtime stress, because nobody wants to be stressed when you're supposed to be sitting down and enjoying your food and enjoying the people around you. And then we, excuse me, want to include the whole family. So like Myra said, that creates better buy-in. If you're involved in something, you of course like feel like you're a part of it, and it makes it that much more easy to like engage in that meal or engage in that situation, whatever it might be. And then we want to make sure that we're maintaining a basic pantry. So just the things that we have on hand, and that can even be things in our fridge too. Like if you know you love mushrooms and you'll use mushrooms up every time you buy them, those can be like your fridge staples. So pantry staples and fridge staples.
All right. If you guys have any questions, just as of right now, y'all go ahead and feel free to ask, and we'll get to you. And I'm going to go ahead and try to pull up our recipe for today. We are making, if you guys got the email earlier, we're making stovetop macaroni and cheese. It is a great meal, I think, for when you're creating buy-in from kids. Most people like macaroni and cheese, and creating healthier options is not necessarily an all or nothing kind of approach. So we're not saying don't eat macaroni and cheese. It's not good for you. That's crazy. Macaroni and cheese is wonderful. We're just saying let's make some healthier choices when we go to do that. So that's all we're trying to empower you guys to do, is to have quick and easy meals on the mind, and utilizing what you already have, and then making healthier choices when you're making meals that you already like to make or already know how to make. And if we can expand your recipe knowledge in the making of all of these weeks, we're happy to do that too.
Also, while Myra's getting that video ready, a nice helpful hint, especially when it comes for mac and cheese, is like you can do like a mac and cheese Monday. And when I was in college and I had roommates, it was really nice because we would like get the things that we wanted for our mac and cheese, and usually there was like a couple people who had similar things that they wanted, but because like so many of us had different eating habits and dietary restrictions, it was easier just to make a big pot of macaroni, and we all have our own types of cheeses, our own types of protein. And it was just kind of like a little Sunday bar that you could go along and put the things you wanted to in it. So it's like fairly simple. And it also gives everybody the option to get the things they want. And it's also fun to have, look forward to macaroni Mondays, especially like when it's a Monday, and Mondays are kind of rough sometimes.
This is a short video because it's a short recipe, and hopefully this is something that you guys will enjoy. So we'll watch and then we'll talk about it a little bit after. Hey everybody, it's Myra from Clemson University's SNAP Education Program. Today we are going to be making stovetop macaroni and cheese. I'm excited to share this recipe with you guys. It's a little bit of a healthier twist on our regular macaroni and cheese. I love anything that is pasta and I love anything that is cheese, so I would love to share with you a few ways to make it a little bit healthier for you and your family. So first thing that we're going to do is in this recipe we're actually going to add broccoli. You can add other types of vegetables if you would like to, but today I'm going to be doing broccoli. I have a few pieces of cauliflower in here as well, but for the most part we're going to do broccoli. I've already chopped it up and rinsed it, and now I have it sitting in about water enough to cover about half of the broccoli. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that in the microwave for 6-ish minutes to steam and get ready for us. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So it's going to be hanging out in the microwave for about 6 minutes. It may need an extra minute or two. It says 6 to 8 minutes on the recipe, so we're going to start with 6. The next thing that I would do is go ahead and grate my Monterey Jack cheese. That's the cheese that I'm going to be using today. You can also use cheddar cheese. Monterey Jack is a little bit less fat in it, so for me, I would prefer to make that choice whenever I can. And also, I love Monterey Jack cheese, so that's what we're using today. I didn't say this before, but I'm making about a half of what the recipe calls for. The full recipe actually serves 16, and it and one if you use the serving, which is a half of a cup. So that's kind of hard to abide by, but yeah, if you use half a cup, then it serves 16 people. I'm making half of that ratio. So check the measurements on the recipe. Don't go by exactly what I'm doing because I'm doing half again. So. I am doing about 2.5 ounces of cheese. I've already grated some of it, but I would like to show you just how to grade if you don't already know how to do it. So I'm going to take this end right here that has the edges poking out a little bit more. I don't know if that's easy for you guys to see or not. Oh, and I also wash my hands at the very beginning of this video and wipe down my countertops, all very important. So when I go to use my grater, I want to have this facing downwards. I'm gonna have a firm grip, either, doesn't really matter which way, but I'll have a firm grip on this. And then I'm going to be holding whatever I'm grating with my fingers as far back as I can. Of course, you want some stability on it, so you may not be able to hold the very, very end, but you do want to be holding it a little bit further back. Okay, this is just as dangerous as using a knife because these are sharp edges and we don't want you guys to get cut. So I'm just going to kind of show you, I'm going to do a side angle so you can see. So I am using this, and then what I'm going to do is I can see my fingers are getting a little close, so I'm going to scoot them back. I might even turn this a different way. It looked a lot neater whenever I was using the bigger, whenever this was bigger, but I already did some of it, so you wouldn't have to watch me do this whole thing. Again, I'm going to turn, I might turn this way to use a bigger portion. I'm seeing that my fingers are getting a little close. I'm going to keep turning, using the edges. Once I start to see that it's getting too small to use, which is about right now is about where I'm comfortable using, I'll do one more little piece. My fingers are still out of the way if you can see. I can do one of two things. I can either use my knife to cut this up into little pieces, or I can eat it, which is probably what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna do that in a moment. So I have a little piece that I can eat of cheese while we wait, but then I have the rest of my cheese already shredded. So all good there. Okay, now what I'm gonna go ahead and do, because I already have my water boiling and I think it just got ready, I'm gonna go ahead and put my noodles in the water. You're gonna make those based off of the package instructions of whatever type of noodles that you're using. Each one may be a little bit different of how long you should cook it. I'm using whole wheat rotini noodles today. So you'll see they're a little bit darker and they have a little bit of different shape. You might like to use the elbow normal kind of macaroni noodles, but we would love if you would try to use whole wheat noodles and see if you can taste a huge difference. It's definitely healthier for you, more fiber, all of those good things. So try that out if you'd like to. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these on. So that was about 8 ounces of noodles. The recipe again calls for 16, so I'm doing about half of that. All right, so the next thing that we are going to do is make our cheese sauce. So with that, we're gonna heat our milk. We can put it in a small pot, you can put it in the microwave. We're just gonna get it warm. And then we are going to, in a medium sized pot, we're gonna melt the butter and we're gonna add our flour. We're gonna whisk that together, stirring pretty constantly. Then we're gonna add our warm milk. Then we're going to, as the sauce kind of thickens, we're gonna go ahead and add the salt and pepper, and then we'll add our cream cheese, which we'll use 2 tablespoons of for this half recipe. And then we'll add our grated cheese and our broccoli. And once it's nice and melted in a good consistency, and once our pasta is ready, we'll kind of add that all together, okay? So I already have this heating up over here. So the first thing, like I said, that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put my butter on there to be melting. I just turned this on a second ago. I'm gonna put my milk, just for me, since my broccoli just got done, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the microwave just for a minute or two, and go ahead and go on with the other process. So I'll be right back. All right, so now we got our butter all nice and melted. I have this over about medium heat. I'm gonna add my 1 tablespoon of flour. Ideally, we would have done this in a little bit of a smaller pot, but this is what I had available. Really quick, we are going to go ahead. Now that it's thicker, we want it to be like at least coating the spoon and not sliding right off. So this is exactly how we want it right now. So now we're gonna go ahead and kind of put in our salt and pepper. This is just 1/4 of a teaspoon for mine. The, again, full recipe calls for just a little bit more. Now we got that nice and mixed in. I'll go ahead and add in our cheese. Whoop, whoop. Big old block of it. I probably could have done that a little bit more gracefully, but that's okay. Have it on a little bit of a lower heat. I don't want it to burn. So I turned it down just a little bit. And I'm also gonna go ahead and add my cream cheese. So, oh, this is looking so good. I wish y'all could see this. Or you could smell it. You can see it, can't smell it where you're at. I'm doing 2 tablespoons. This is again, this is no fat. You can do low fat. I just prefer to do the fat free. Doing 2 tablespoons of that. Cool. We'll keep working that around for a second. I got just a little bit more in here that I'm gonna get out. Y'all can see it well. It's looking really good. Our cream cheese is just gonna melt. And then I'm gonna go ahead, I already have our broccoli drained. Again, it only took about 6 minutes for me to steam that in the microwave. And then our pasta is just about ready as well. And we're gonna put it all together. All right. I still got a few little bit of chunks of my cream cheese, but that's okay because I'm gonna go ahead and work in my broccoli. Oh, that looks so beautiful, y'all. Oh yeah. This is an awesome side dish to serve. If you put some protein, you could put a little bit of chicken in here. This could be your one of your main dishes, and then do a side salad or something like that. So this is an awesome dish to go with some grilled chicken or something like that. And it's a little bit of a twist on your usual very cheesy macaroni and cheese, and there's a little bit of a healthier version. So this is what it looks like. I wish I could let y'all taste it, but I guess you're gonna have to try it for yourself. So I hope you guys enjoy. You can top it with a little bit more Monterey Jack cheese if you would like to, or cheddar cheese, whatever you prefer using. Appreciate you watching. See y'all next time. All right. that just made me really hungry again. I don't know if y'all feel the same way. So a few things to note. I kind of said it right before the video, but again, we are always just empowering you to make just healthier options for the things that you already enjoy, not trying to hijack everything that you love and, you know, giving you a completely new recipe, just trying to find different ways to do things that we already love. So macaroni and cheese is something that I really love. And this is a way to maybe get away from the box macaroni and cheese, and that has a lot of different processed things in it. We're also using a whole grain. Dayana talked about the My Plate earlier, which is the 5 food groups. So in that one meal, we had dairy, we had whole grain, a grain, but it was also a whole grain, which is really awesome. And then we had a vegetable. And then if we would have added some grilled chicken to that, we could have made that 4, which would have been a really, really great meal.
And dairy.
Say again. Oh, did I say dairy? What did I say? Sorry. So protein, dairy, whole grain, and a vegetable. Yeah. Sorry. There was no protein in that one, but if you added grilled chicken, it would be. I guess the last thing before I ask for questions is it on the recipe that you'll have, I believe it says the serving size is like 16 or something crazy if you make the whole box of noodles. So this is a really great if you are getting together with a few family members safely because of COVID, hopefully, and maybe outdoors if you can. For Thanksgiving, this is a really great side dish that you can make. Definitely a twist on macaroni and cheese. You can use a different type of vegetable in it if you'd like to. Again, if you wanted to make it a meal, you just add those other things. And I guess the serving size is like a half a cup, but if you do more than that, it may not make it that far. But do you guys have any questions about the recipe, about the things that we talked about today, or just about healthy eating in general?
Danielle asked what other veggies would be good.
I don't know if y'all heard in the video, I actually had a few pieces of cauliflower just from like randomly in my refrigerator. Cauliflower would probably be good in there too. It's a mild thing, kind of like broccoli, mushrooms. Nose. I would totally put mushrooms. You could put onions. I don't know if your kids would be super mad at you if you put onions in there for macaroni and cheese. They may be more mad about that. But mushrooms, onions, spinach, like we talked about earlier, would be really good. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other things that would be good.
Carrots.
Can say again.
Carrots.
Absolutely. If you do carrots, if you either saute them or maybe put them in the oven and roast them for a little while first and get them really nice and soft, I think that would be a really good addition as well. I don't know if I might be the only one, but I'm always a big fan of adding kale and baby spinach to different things. Of course, if you saute it down first, not raw kale or anything like that, because they're not super bold flavors when they're sauteed, and you're getting a veggie in. Makes it more colorful and fun. Anybody feel like this is something that they might try? Worth trying at home?
We got a def going to try with mushrooms and an absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool.
And someone's going to try it with spinach. Daniel's going to try it with spinach.
Very cool. Another thing you can do with spinach or kale, if you put them in things like this, you can like cut it up into smaller pieces so that you don't have like huge pieces of kale or spinach in Like if I do Alfredo or something like that, I don't really mind putting big pieces of spinach, but if it's maybe in something that's a little bit different, you can kind of cut it up and make it not as noticeable maybe.
AC said, my kids said they would be willing to try all mixed together. We always separated broccoli from noodles, something new for us. That'd be amazing. You have, it would be great if you could come back next class and let us know if you did try it and how it went
Yeah.
over with the kiddos.
And kids, if you are watching, you let us know how it was too. And that's okay if you don't like something. It's in, we always try to empower you guys to try something new. And then if you don't like it, try to think about why you don't like it instead of maybe just thinking like, oh, that recipe, no good. Maybe think of like, oh, I would have loved it if I did this one other thing to it. If I would have changed this up about it. So yeah, if you don't like it, think of why. Broccoli is one of those, and for a lot of different vegetables, we try to find more fun ways to eat them. I love vegetables. I can eat them raw, sauteed, boiled, any type of way. I love vegetables, but we know that not everybody always likes to eat vegetables, and especially it's sometimes more difficult for kids. So finding fun ways to incorporate them in meals.
Cool. So I was gonna just remind everybody, we have an after class survey. There is a link for it at the very top. I don't know if
I'll copy and paste it.
Okay, yeah. So there's it's a super quick survey. If you fill it out today and you come to another class, you do not have to do it again, if that's any incentive. So it's a one-time thing. There's a code for it and everything. So if you guys could just please fill that out for us, we'd be super appreciative. We just need it for like all of our information for our program.
We truly do want to be as beneficial for you guys as possible. So if we, so please be honest and let us know if class was helpful or not. And it is very helpful for our teaching and to make these classes as good as possible. Yeah. So if y'all want to go ahead and open the link before we'll give y'all a few more seconds to open the link before we get out of here so we don't lose that. Awesome. We are going to have, I think we have 4 more of these for the library. And so if y'all would like to join another one, please do. We're going to have we have different topics every time. They're all kind of conversational like this, where we give you some information. We love to hear feedback from you guys and hopefully have some good conversations about the topics that we're talking on. So we'd love if you joined us for a few more of these.
All right. Thank you all for attending this latest Cooking Matters. And the next one is Kids in the Kitchen. So make sure you sign up for that at our adult virtual events page. You'll register and get the link just like you did this time. We appreciate you taking the time to spend it with us this evening. Thank you so much to Clemson, Snap Ed, to Myra and Diana. We appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. And as always, my final tip on learning more about cooking and nutrition is to use your library card. We have so many cookbooks available for you, books on nutrition. Those are available as regular books and ebooks. And as I mentioned before, follow us so that you don't miss out on these great programming opportunities. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.